All right. Well, in California, it is still November 7th. Tomorrow is election day in America. People are saying there might be a red wave or a red tsunami. But, I won't be surprised if maybe that doesn't happen. I'm not really sure. But Joe and I were out yesterday. Santa Claus and I were out yesterday trying to just gather. Does free speech frighten you? Um, Elon Musk has bought Twitter, and we are going to have a walk against the woke December 3rd for America. And yeah, we're out here just gaining a feel, and we had a bit of an interesting talk from I think a very interesting lady. She had peace signs all over the place, and it was something else. I was going to get into the Oprah and Kid Rock situation, but I'll deal with that later. Joe, do you have anything to add of the things that I have just completely bloviated on?
Well, that what you are listening to Transparency and Merit, and Transparency and Merit went out to Hermosa Beach, and we talked to some of the people there, and I think it was generally a positive feedback. I think a lot of people were interested in seeing Santa walk down the boardwalk there, and I thought it was pretty good. I think all said and done, some people gave you the cross side, the side eye look. Some people were very open to talking. Some people just yelled at us from their rooftops, which is pretty cool, from their balconies. And I really like the spirit out there for that. And I think the signs threw them off a little bit, maybe. What do you think? I don't know. It did go well though, and
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just sometimes I have myself on mute because I am promoting the show. But yeah, I think it went rather. I think it went rather well. Basically, I got there was another Santa Claus out there, and his beard was rocking, man, rocking, baby, and I just think that I think basically we got some good vibes. But you know what? The night is still young, and you never know. You never know what's out there, Joey. And crazy people may be out there, vicious people may be out there, intolerant people may be out there, just lurking beyond the reaches. And Joey, I've never seen human beings actually behave in the way that I see them now. And I don't know if social media has done that, or this is just the age in which these people are, and they are so entitled to their own ego. They're doubling down on things that they know to be wrong, or at least where evidence is showing them that they are.
Well, that feeling is gonna emerge even more prominently as things get more and more difficult. So I think with continued inflation, people are going to rely on one thing, and that might be hopefully it's themselves. But people are going to rely on their egos. They're going to rely on those pretty much useless degrees, and I have a few of them. People are going to rely, and I don't rely on them. I'm really working in a different direction than where my diplomas, my degrees took me. I didn't when I signed up for all this, I did not realize certain things came along with it, and I think I jumped ship just in time. But luckily I do have an entrepreneurial spirit about me. I do want to make things with my own two hands and rely on my brain as my governor. And it's a long path, but I think things that right there, what you're explaining, is a very large symptom of what we're about to see a lot more of. I do believe.
You know what I mean? Ego is a strong narcotic, and I think you're right. If it's a healthy ego based on reality and truth, that's a good thing. But if it's a reality that is based on falsehood and not true, I was listening a little bit to this show called Chaotic Truth, and he was talking about Emmett Till. And there is a lot of, just information that is not correct about, like that is left out about about that whole situation, right or wrong. To show the whole narrative, the good, the bad, the ugly, and everything in between. We're not doing that nowadays. We're just showing the side that we want people to see because we have an agenda. And that's the problem with films and movies today. They have an agenda where and they don't want to show the truth, and they don't want to show reality. And there is somewhat of a reality with things. It's not all about the legend. And I'm reminded of the movie The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance, where after the character, I forget the main character's name, but the Jimmy Stewart character, tells them the true story that he's not the man who shot Liberty Valance. They said we're not going to do this story because, and at the ending line they say, when the legend becomes the truth, print the legend. And basically that's what people are doing today. There's a legend about Emmett Till. There's a legend.
Let's hear a minute or two of this guy.
Those were watching it. You know why? Because you had a lot of people, blacks, whites, who bought the Kool-Aid, who bought the drug of racism. No, I would argue that most people back then never experienced racism, never saw it. But for a poor white to feel good about themselves, I'm white and look at what my ancestors did to Kunta Kinte. That's the only reference point on race that a lot of people back then ever had.
That's chaotic truth.
Yeah, and I'll also add that I don't think Kunta Kinte was a true character. And the story of Roots. The story of Roots. Number one, it was plagiarized, and number two, the way that Black Africans were seized was completely untrue. That's not the way Africans were brought to this continent of America. Most, by the way, were brought to Brazil, but most of them were either sold by other Africans or Arab middlemen. And what they ended up showing in the beginning of Roots was basically a whole group of white pirates and sailors capturing Africans. It may have happened that way very lightly, but on average, it was Black Africans capturing slaves and then I believe selling them to Arabs or selling them to other African tribes that later on sold them to whites. But blacks and Arabs were the middlemen that sold other blacks. I don't know if that made any sense, but that's basically the truth.
I have a little bit of audio from yesterday's deal. Do you want me to play any of that?
Yeah, you can continue if you want to. Go ahead.
I don't know if it'll sound good. You tell me.
Oh, it does sound good. Yeah. Go ahead.
When people are threatened, woke cancel culture threatens a lot of people who speak their mind if they speak out of turn or something like that. And there's no point. I ask people this: does due process only apply to a court of law, or does it also apply to any time there's punitive action that takes place? Or should it?
Yeah, I slightly agree with you.
So I think we need to do a better job of making sure people know exactly what you're talking about. I don't think she got onto that, and so next time I think we'll come armed with some definitions.
Yeah, and I could be wrong on this, but here's my question: does due process only apply in a court of law, or does it apply, or can it apply anytime there's punitive action takes place, anytime there's punishment taking place, where someone is harmed economically, where someone is fired? Do they have the right to redress? And that's the problem I have with cancel culture.
Well, that's what I'm doing right now. I'm in the process of that very issue with my former employer, and it should be interesting what kind of outcome and what kind of results I can get out of this, because I don't feel I was able to. Court for me was not fair, even though there wasn't a court per se, but. I feel like I wasn't given due process from my employer. I wasn't fired. I was just not given work because of my refusal to mess with something that I felt was experimental. So, I have a lot more closure that needs to happen for me to feel like due process was a part of this deal.
Oh, I got a Twitter circle here.
What happened?
Oh, I'm sharing this video out on one of my Twitter things here. I just want to mention that Oprah, and I'll do a whole thing on Oprah, perhaps.
We were going to talk about this, right? Why don't you give me a little bit of insight what you wanted to, Oprah and Kid Rock.
Kid Rock, and here's the thing with Kid Rock. Kid Rock and Oprah have gone into a little bit of a spat.
So I said to you, Brian, these are two people that aren't even in the they're not a focus of the media much anymore, but I didn't know that on Twitter land, they're still a thing. So what happened there?
You know what? Here's the deal. You can live again when you're on Twitter. You can rise. You can really rise and be relevant. But Oprah, I'll say this: Oprah had a large impact on the culture. And Oprah has changed from the beginning, from who she was back in the day to who she is now. And I think she's a very egocentric. I mean, she comes across as a rather egocentric person who is very stuck in her way, and she will not discuss or debate anything. And that's the big with a lot of these Hollywood types. In these celebrity types, they do not want to hear from anybody else except themselves, except people who think like them. And that's really kind of sad. And it's gotten progressively worse over time. These people have basically put themselves inside a little cocoon, a little bubble, but they want to make policy for everybody else. The Oprah Winfrey mindset is still there. The people who were influenced by her are still there, and in a lot of ways, act in the same manner. Go ahead.
And let's talk about who was influenced most by Oprah: blacks, women, gays. Who was it that really benefited from Oprah?
Well,
liberals, conservatives.
Again, Oprah, Oprah did shape a portion of both Generation X and the millennials. And the Generation X kind of influenced the millennials with their, with their thought process. So it was kind of a, it's kind of like how I guess Buddy Holly and Elvis influenced the Beatles. it's kind of like that to a degree. She was like the start of rock and roll, and then it just blossomed from there. But a lot of far leftist kind of Marxist ideas, cultural Marxist ideas, came out of her show. And Jane Elliott came out of that experience, and there were a lot of other social engineers that kind of came out of that experience, and these people shaped her more than she was shaped, more than she shaped them. And
I wonder if she ever had anybody from the Tavistock Institute visit the show.
I doubt
Yeah, I got to go into the archives and look for names, but I doubt it too.
Oprah was surrounded by people who were rather set in their ways, and Oprah and I almost want to do a show about Oprah and Donahue and how they were different. Both were liberal, and Donahue seemed more openly liberal. But the difference between Donahue and Oprah is Donahue would actually have people from the other side. Oprah never, or hardly ever did, from the intellectual other side. And one of the things that the internet brought was people from an intellectual other side that pushed back against some call the cultural Marxist, or some call the race Marxist, or some call the intellectual elite that were basically the ones who indoctrinated everybody into certain beliefs. And the internet really put a pushback on this ideology. And then all of a sudden, the people who were in charge of that ideology pushed back, first with the ad apocalypse, and then after what happened with George Floyd, then there was a complete purge of any kind of thinking that went outside of the sort of race Marxist sort of ideology, or what would be called the elite ideology, or the prevailing ideology out there.
So here's something I've been meaning to bring up, and I don't like talking about it a whole lot because I've never been a big, I haven't been too into Kanye, and people tell me not to talk about Kanye, but I'm curious if you agree or disagree with this, that because you take that stand that's kind of right, conservative right, and we're against the cancel culture.
Yeah.
But what do you say in a situation like with Kanye, where the canceling came from the conservative, from the right wing agenda?
I don't know if it came from just the right wing agenda. I think, again, you have to be tactful in what you say, and there is to me, many of us are under the whole ego thing. Everything is about ego, and the thing is, when you say, when I think it is important to use your words carefully, and I think people are over dramatizing it and making more out of it than it is.
Well, that's a hallmark of his career, anyways. That's why I wanted to kind of just bring it up to you and not really get too into it, but it's something that has kind of I just heard a podcast the other day, and I'll play it for you. In fact, you know what? I'm going to line it up and play a minute of it to see where you're at, if you agree with any of this. So I'll keep on with what you're doing. I'll be right back.
All right. So Joe is bringing up Kanye West, and again, if Kanye West said he was going to go DEFCON 3 on white people, I don't think there would have been perhaps the same kind of problem if he's, and maybe even if he said he was going to go DEFCON 3 on black people. But I think there would have been more of a backlash. I mean, you can say primarily any inflammatory thing against whites in this country or in the Western Hemisphere or within the Anglosphere, you can say whatever you want. They can defame you all you want. And even if you push back, you can be in trouble within this society. And that's what the elites have put forth. That is the faith, that is the religion that they have put forth, that colonialism is bad and that white racism is so bad that anything that pushes against even abuse is considered more wrong than the abuse itself. And that's one of the reasons why we can't talk about, what happened in South Africa, what happened in Zimbabwe, because they believe that past racism and past discrimination was so bad that to even bring up and talk about an issue that's happening now is considered foreboding, because white racists will use it, and I guess they think that the Third Reich will rise from the dead or whatever. It sounds absurd. It sounds completely nonsensical, but here you go. And it's really, hate speech today is now the biggest sacrilege out there. And hate speech only goes in one direction. Go ahead, Joey.
No, you're right. You're right. I'm wondering if you want to listen to this for just a couple minutes.
Go for it, Joey.
Okay, this is from a writer from Idaho, named Michael Hoffman. Really interesting writer.
What do they call human rights? The right to kill an unborn human being. That's a human right. Orwell termed it doublethink. And there's more of that. It's pro forma now for cancel culturalists to say they don't believe in canceling anyone. And by the same token, they say they do not advocate censorship. Consequently, in the letter to Penguin Random House seeking the censorship of Justice Amy Coney Barrett's book, the authors say, and I quote, "We are not calling for censorship," end quote. Denise O'Leary at the mindmatters.ai website has a great take on this doublethink. She writes, quote, "Participants in cancel culture generally give themselves the right to assume whatever identity they want and then demand that others assent to it."
I think that's an outstanding point.
Thus, when engaging in behavior that they themselves would probably call censorship when others do it, they demand that the world nonetheless not see them as censors. A great deal depends on whether the publishing world will let the cancelers get away with that. End quote from Denise O'Leary. Yes. Will they be allowed to get away with this masquerade? At this juncture, I'd like to remind my listeners that I am neither right-wing nor left-wing. Hence, it's incumbent on people like me to remind the conservatives, and not just the left, of the fact that Kyrie Irving, an NBA basketball player, and the musician and designer Kanye West are at this moment subjects of cancel culture from the right for statements they have made. Now, in all these cases that we're discussing here today, I stand with the old adage attributed to Voltaire. I may not agree with what you say, but I will defend to the death your right to say it.
What do you think?
I agree, but I disagree with that it was from the right. I believe that the business, again, that the business end is very left-leaning. Mm-hmm. Had he said something about whites, there would have been, if he just said, "I'm going DEFCON 3 on white people," I doubt there would have been the same. I could be wrong, but I doubt there would be the same reaction.
You're probably right. I'm sure it was, every word was scripted for that very reason. I think you're absolutely right.
And again, I don't think that Kanye scripted any words. I think that he is a person who goes off by the cuff, and I don't know if I've heard that he's bipolar.
See, I think you put too much. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I think you put too much faith in the media in general by believing that what Kanye West says is not scripted. I think it's scripted to the full tilt boogie on that. You could see his eyes moving to the teleprompter. There's not a word that guy says that's accidentally aired. Not a word, and that goes for all across the media.
I disagree. I think the man is a loose cannon, and he doesn't think before he speaks, and he's very angry. He's very angry, and he feels himself cheated by a certain group. He believes in the myth that Jews control everything. I believe that leftists control a lot of things right now, but that doesn't mean that they're all Jewish. But there is a large percentage of Jewish people who, in my opinion, are part of the woke culture. And like I said, I have a problem with that ideology. I have a problem with that behavior. I remember when I was going in the Women's March, and I had to sign South African, if refugees are welcome here, how about white South African refugees? Everyone agreed with me except for 3 Jewish girls. And they were with the they were people who sided with the ADL, an organization, by the way, that has been caught being dishonest. And they're a very egocentric and very one-sided group. Now, right now, they're kind of laying low because they know that I believe they're hedging their bets. They know that there's going to be a red tsunami. But these people are not called out to the mat. And in my opinion, someone one time said these are bad Jews because they cause people to dislike and hate Jews because of their behavior. They were the first people on YouTube that I saw took away both the comment section and the thumbs up and thumbs down. And I think that they were instrumental in removing the ratio on YouTube. And for that, I don't like you. I don't like you because you are interfering with the conversation and you want to control the conversation. And you want to control it without discussion. And I have a problem with that, Joe. And that's why I have a problem with the ADL and their behavior. They are not popular. And when they're put, because Dennis Prager is a Jew. He's, and there's a lot of, he's a conservative, but, it's founded by Jews, by a Jew, and there's a lot of Jewish people on there. And they don't, they never removed any of their, you could have commented section at all times. And there were people that commented on their videos, but people are afraid to do that to the ADL because they come across as a very vindictive, very vengeful, and they do it without any question. They come across as a very authoritarian group. I could be wrong on that, but that's how they come across. Back to you, Joey.
Indeed. Do we have any other points to hit before we scoot on out?
No, I just want to say December 3rd, we're doing a walk against the woke. We're going to continue to plan on this idea. And my whole thing is due process. My main thing is I believe that due process, whenever possible, should be applied. Anytime punitive action should take place. And contrition. And there's none of that. There's none of that I see today. Anyway, Joe, anything else to say before we call it a day?
Walk against the woke is coming up.
The woke. Yes, join us.
December
3rd.
December 3rd. That's in a little under a month.
Yes. All right, guys, join us. We're here. We're just here to try to gain knowledge and better understanding. I don't know everything, but this is what I do to a degree feel passionate about. Thank you. Those few that will listen to the replay, thank you for listening.